A Russian man takes a long time to harness the horses, but once he does, he is sure of his path. I am sure the audience knows what comes next.
Russia and the West have never been closer to a full-blown conflict, with missiles like ATACMS and Oreshnik now being fired at each other. The war has expanded beyond just Russia and Ukraine. It's not just missiles. Verbal exchanges are escalating daily. Ministers, leaders, and neighbors of Russia and Ukraine are constantly issuing threats, further intensifying tensions. The US approval of ATACMS missiles for Kyiv has sparked a storm in the region, further fueling the fire and rapidly increasing the risk of a Russia versus NATO war. Russia is responding in kind, with no hesitation. The Kremlin's top brass, including Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov and former President Dmitry Medvedev, are leading the charge. Sergey Lavrov expressed frustration over Kyiv's continued use of long-range ATACMS missiles to strike Russian territory. While Russia has been patient, Lavrov warned that there is a limit to their tolerance, and the West is dangerously testing it.
The strikes continue with these attacks, as reported by the Ministry of Defense. We have many proverbs that reflect the character of our people. Measure 7 times, cut once. The Lord was patient, and He commanded us to be patient. But patience has its limits, especially when it is tested endlessly. Another proverb that should be in the minds of Western officials in this situation is, a Russian man takes a long time to harness the horses, but once he does, he is sure of his path. I am sure the audience knows what comes next.
This warning was echoed by Sergei Ryabkov, Russia's deputy foreign minister, who made it clear that Russia's diplomatic patience is running out. He emphasized that Moscow is now prepared to use more direct and forceful measures.
The nuclear power cannot be defeated. We still have sufficient tools at our hand how to respond to this elevating spiral of confrontation with military means. We do not believe time for arguments and our messages in diplomatic and political terms is over, but the importance of harder tools of making our views relevant, heard, and imposed.
The warning from Sergei Ryabkov was not just a diplomatic statement, but a clear indication of Russia's readiness to take stronger actions if provoked further. This stance was underscored by President Vladimir Putin at the Astana summit, where he unveiled the game-changing capabilities of the Oreshnik missile.
As I have repeatedly stated, there will always be a response from our side. Finally, the newest hypersonic strike system, Oreshnik, in a non-nuclear configuration, had to be tested in combat conditions, as I mentioned earlier, in response to Western-made long-range missile strikes on Bryansk and Kursk regions. The Oreshnik has no analogs in the world, and I doubt similar systems will appear anytime soon. Let me remind you once again how the Oreshnik works, as you requested. Tens of self-guiding warheads attack the target at a speed of 10 Machs, approximately 3 kilometers per second. The temperature of the striking elements reaches 4,000 degrees. To compare, the surface temperature of the Sun is 5,506,000 degrees. Everything in the epicenter of the explosion is reduced to elementary particles. The missile can strike even heavily protected and deeply buried objects. According to military and technical experts, in the case of a massive cluster deployment of these missiles, the power of the strike would be comparable to that of nuclear weapons.
Dmitry Medvedev, deputy chairman of the Russian Security Council, also weighed in, warning that the situation is escalating into a much more dangerous phase. He criticized Ukraine's missile strikes and the West's continued support for Kyiv.
President, welcome back to the White House.
As is known, we informed the Americans that a ballistic hypersonic missile called Oreshnik would be used, since we have such agreements and obligations with them to avoid an international conflict. But given what happened, this certainly moves the conflict into a much more tense stage. This is an escalation.
While Russia intensifies its rhetoric, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is not holding back either. In his daily address, Zelenskyy called for more air defense systems and urged the international community to keep up the pressure on Russia.
I just spoke with Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary General. Yesterday, our Ukraine-NATO Council met due to Russia's use of a new ballistic missile. And today, Mark and I discussed the available response capabilities, the necessary strengthening of Ukraine's air defense. I named the specific air defense systems that we need, which can work. Our partners have these air defense systems. The recent authorization for long-range strikes on military facilities in Russia helped. But the pressure on Russia must be maintained and increased at different levels, so that Russia feels what war is.
With no breakthrough in sight after nearly 1,000 days of conflict, and now the most lethal weapons entering the battlefield, the war's future seems more uncertain than ever. What started as a regional war in Eastern Europe now threatens to expand its footprint, with no clear end in sight.